Good evening, everyone. My name is Wanda Wilson. I'm Executive Director of Oakland Planning and Development. Welcome to our Oakland Community-Wide meeting. We're going to get started. We're on Zoom and on Facebook as well. We're sharing our screen and going to show the agenda for this evening, and I'll also go over how we'll operate the meeting tonight. So the attendees of the meeting will be the video turned off and also muted. We'll be using the chat feature tonight to be able to get feedback and comments from everyone. So we do want to have lots of discussion and input from those attending the meeting tonight, but please do that through the chat feature. And I'll be moderating the chat. I'll be watching the comments come through, and I'll verbalize the questions that people have for the presenters tonight. One thing that would be really helpful is now at the beginning of the meeting, if all those attending the meeting tonight could just type their name into the chat, and that'll be a way that we take attendance, just in case the name that, that you come through on your Zoom name, we might not be able to see. So if it's different in some way. So if you could do that, that would be helpful for us to have that all there on the chat of who's attending tonight. The agenda is we're going to do some announcements quickly to provide some updates to everyone. And then we have a presentation from Clark Street Holdings, and also we have PWSA with us tonight to go over some updates on some of the work that they're doing in the neighborhood. And then for those who are joining just on the phone, we will have an opportunity for you to ask questions after we've gathered information, feedback and questions through the chat feature. We will offer an opportunity for people who are just joining by phone and therefore unable to use the chat feature in either Zoom or Facebook to verbalize a question. So we will let people have that opportunity as well during the question and answer period after each presentation. So we can move to the next slide, and we just have some updates that we want to share. We're working with several partner organizations to support food distribution in both South and West Oakland. So these are the times that hot meal distribution is happening. We can also deliver a meal to front porch if there's a neighbor of yours who could use that. Please let us know. If you yourself would like one, definitely give us a call and let us know. We also have home repair programs available that we'd like to make sure people are aware of. There's a facade matching grant program. Oh, it's not a match, it's just a facade grant program. And for senior homeowners in Oakland, we have a home repair program available where seniors can receive funds to be able to make home repairs, and your home is then able to become part of the Oakland Community Land Trust as well. So call Anne-Marie of my staff if that's something that is of interest, and we have a lot of information on our website about that as well. Next slide. Oakwatch is taking August off and we'll meet on September 16th. We're still doing a lot of tracking about code violation problems in the neighborhood, so you can still give us a call, report issues that you're finding in the neighborhood. But the next meeting will be on Zoom in September 16th. There's also, we talked at our last meeting about all the work that the University of Pittsburgh is doing around their health and safety procedures. So there's a form where you can submit information. You can also call us with concerns that we can relay to the university as well. And a reminder for anybody who hasn't completed their census form to please do so as soon as possible. They've shortened the period of time to complete the census, and it ends on September 30th. So if you or somebody that you know has not yet completed your census form, please do so. You can do it online. You can also call the number on your screen here. Next slide. We'll be getting more information out to the community about the Oakland plan process. There are some initial materials on the engagement portal website that city planning has put together, and we expect that there will be more to come. We wanted everybody to know that the parking authority will begin parking enforcement next week. So a week from today, in fact, Tuesday, September 1st. So I think everybody's kind of gotten into, you know, kind of the routine of not thinking about the residential permit parking enforcement, but it is because it's been all summer, or really all since the pandemic, that it hasn't been, we haven't had enforcement in the residential areas, but they are going to start that back up. And our last announcement is that the Pitt News has reached out to us to let us know that they're looking for a member to be part of their advisory board. So it could be an Oakland resident or a business owner. And there's some information there to learn more about it and an email to contact Terry Lucas. You can also let us know if that's something of interest to you when you think about it later, something we can pass your information along. Those are our updates, and I now like to turn the presentation to our first presentation for the evening, the former Marathon gas station site. I'm going to introduce Kevin McKeegan of Meyer, Unkovic, and Scott. And Kevin, you can go ahead and introduce all the members of the team.
Sure.
And go through your slide presentation. And like I said at the beginning of the meeting, once you're done, we'll moderate the Q&A discussion and have an opportunity for people to ask questions.
Okay.
And I will just add, I'm sure you'll say this, but just so members of the community know, this is a preliminary presentation. It won't be the only community meeting that we have on this project, but the group wanted to come to the community early in the process to give a presentation and to get some feedback.
Exactly right. Wanda, thank you very much. We appreciate you and OPDC facilitating this first community discussion for the project. I'm going to make some brief introductory remarks, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jessica Leo, who is the Director of Design and Development for CA Ventures. The developer here, Jessica, is going to talk a little bit about the company. But most of the presentation is going to be handled by Jay Silverman, who's an architect and managing principal with Dwell Design Studios. That's why you see Dwell Design Studios on this cover page. Jay is based in Atlanta, but Dwell has experience working here in Pittsburgh, principally with the second phase of the Arsenal project down in Lawrenceville. So as Wanda said, the plans we're going to go through tonight are preliminary. They do reflect feedback we received earlier this year from initial conversations both with Wanda and Councilman Kraus. But this is really the first public presentation of the project, and we're frankly very interested in the public's response and questions to the project. We really do hope that this is the start of a dialogue that can guide the process moving forward. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just briefly, the site in question is the former Marathon Oil site on Forbes Avenue between McKee and Semple. It's roughly 51,000 square foot parcel. It's actually made up currently of 5 separate tax parcels. They will be consolidated at a later date. To orient people, it's across McKee from the Hilton Garden Inn and across Semple from the Myron Street parking garage. We've summarized on this page some very basic zoning requirements for the area. The site is in what's referred to in the zoning code as the Oakland Public Realm Subdistrict C. which is essentially the central part of Oakland, running along the 5th and Forbes corridor. Permitted uses include multifamily, restaurants, retail, and office. The project has been very carefully designed to comply with the zoning code. So we're within the floor area ratio, we're within the lot coverage. I want to stop for a minute on project height. In this sub-district, buildings are allowed to be up to 85 feet tall. We're proposing 102 feet, which is 20% taller than that, and that's based upon a bonus for LEED certified buildings that's available in any non-residential zoning district in the city. Can we go to the next slide, please? So a project of this type has to go before the Planning Commission at some point. It will be subject to what are referred to as project development plan standards. We've listed on this slide some of those standards, the most critical of which I think are really that you have established build-to lines and a prominent street level entrance and facade along Forbes Avenue. And Jay will explain how those are being met by the project. The project envisions 296 dwelling units. There will be a mix of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units, but the exact numbers have not yet been determined, exact numbers within those unit ranges. The approximately 7,500 square feet, give or take, of office, commercial, and retail area. Again, no final design in place yet. This is still preliminary, no tenants identified. Frankly, if anybody has ideas on tenants tonight, we'd love to hear them. There will be an integral parking garage. As currently laid out, it will have 233 parking spaces. We've crunched the numbers and we believe we're compliant with the code on that. We're also proposing 240 bicycle spaces. Again, this is obviously an urban site with a lot of necessity for bicycle usage in the area. So just to kind of give you an idea of where we go from here, what we'd like to do is take into account what comes out of this meeting and as best we can afterwards, make a formal zoning development review application to city planning sometime early in September. That, as you can imagine, triggers a number of other engagements, including coming back to OPDC for discussions of this type. We're also going to need to touch base with the Oakland Task Force. We're going to have to deal with city planning and staff design, with CDAP and the like. Again, hoping that we can have a formal development activities meeting sponsored by OPDC by early December, which would then hopefully, again, lead to Planning Commission consideration of this the first part of 2021. So hopefully that introduction lets everybody know a little bit about the project and where we're going. I'll now turn it over to Jessica, who can say a little bit about CA, and then Jay, who will go through the slideshow on the project itself.
Again, as Kevin mentioned, my name is Jessica Leo. I am an architect. I am also the director of design at CA Ventures. CA Ventures is the developer of the 3500 Forbes Avenue project that we'll be presenting to you tonight. We are a multifamily residential developer, and we specialize in student housing. Our founder, Tom Scott, started our company in 2004 with a project in Champaign, Illinois, which is the home of the University of Illinois, which is where he grew up and also where he went to school. Since then, we have projects now in 31 states at the country's best colleges and universities. And we've learned from that every city, college town, and community is unique. And thus, each project we build is designed with that sensitivity in mind. One item to note with CA Ventures is that we have in-house property management as part of our company. Their involvement starts at design and not delivery. They collaborate with development, which is me, investment, and the asset management teams to infuse our ownership mentality into the project as it evolves from the beginning. Our design process, which includes meetings like the one we're having with you guys tonight, ensures resident and community satisfaction are never afterthoughts for us or our design. We aim to always deliver perfect product market fit for each city, community, and resident, because this ensures long-term success for us as owners, our residents that will occupy this building, and our neighbors that have joined us here tonight. I should also mention CA has on-site property management in all of our properties. Every property has publicly accessible management office. You can even see it probably on the screen right now. It's in that bottom left corner. And there's a 24-hour phone number to access a local manager if you would ever need assistance with anything on the property or any issues surrounding our residents. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our architect, Dwell Design Studio, and Jay Silverman.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Again, I'm Jay Silverman, and I represent a team of architects. Several of them are with us on the call this evening, and we've been working very hard on developing a scheme that really responds to this really special site in the city. And so we, as Jessica mentioned, lined Forbes Avenue. You can see on this plan here over to the if you're looking at the screen, it's on your left-hand side. Forbes Avenue is lined with commercial space as well as lobby and leasing space that'll have a commercial feel to it. And then we've lined McKee with residential units as well as a vehicular entrance. And we've also got a vehicular entrance on Semple. One of the things that we responded to some feedback is trying to help avoid traffic going through the neighborhood from the development. So having those two entry points for vehicles will enable cars to go in and out of the development and minimize the need to go on the residential portions of the block. A couple of other features that you can see on the plan is that we've got significant bike parking as required by the zoning code, but we've also created a pedestrian connection that allows pedestrian access through the block, and that's over on the right-hand side of your screen, shown with a row of green trees, where it'll be possible to safely walk across the block between the project and the existing residential development. If you don't mind, go on to the next slide. I'll share some more features. But as we go through some of the other initial plans, you can see that the parking structure, it actually lines Semple Street and is lined on the rest of the sides of the building by residential or multifamily units in this mixed-use project. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. And this shows a typical floor level above the parking. So the parking is wrapped by residential on 3 sides and then covered on top, and with multifamily units and an amenity courtyard. Also, this plan highlights some of the sustainable features. Somebody asked about what is LEED, and that's the United States Green Building Council's leadership in environmentally and energy efficient design. And so that program is a nationally known premier rating system for sustainable design in buildings. And some of our features will include energy efficiency improvements, green infrastructure, which is taking care of rainwater on the site in a more sustainable way rather than just dumping it into a sewer system, looking at improving health for the residents in the buildings by getting fresh air and light into the building and improving insulation. So those are a few of the strategies that we'll employ in the design to address sustainability, and also that qualifies the project for that height bonus that Kevin mentioned. You can go on to the next slide, please. We'll get into the elevations. Do you mind advancing the slide?
Sorry, I'm trying.
Oh, okay, no problem. There we go. So you can start to see what the building will look like. This is the view. This is a kind of an artificial but straight on view from McKee Place. But you can start to see where we've tried to use the design of the building to break down the mass. Like Kevin mentioned, we're planning to be about 102 feet in height per the zoning. But what we've done is try to use materials and colors to help bring down the scale to a more pedestrian scale. You'll see some of these features more closely as we zoom in. But as Kevin mentioned, we're not seeking any bonus. We're just taking advantage of that height bonus that comes with the sustainable design. If you don't mind, go to the next one. This will show you the look of the project from Forbes Avenue. So you can start to see how we've lined the base of the building with commercial space. There's masonry along the base of the building. And then again, we've broken down the mass of this facade, but used a little bit larger windows to respect the commercial character of Forbes Avenue. Go ahead to the next one, please. This will show you the Semple Street facade where the parking is, and you can see the parking screening treatment.
Sorry, I'm trying to get the slide to go.
No problem. There was some other questions about the sidewalk widths that I can address while you're switching. The sidewalks are, the building is set back a few feet from the property lines on each side. And we are we're going to provide a minimum of 7 foot everywhere around the facade of walkable sidewalks. But it'll meet the streetscape requirements of the district. Here you can see the parking screening treatment that we've engaged, but most of the parking is concealed by residential. Someone asked about the mixture of uses, and actually in this view here, you can see the commercial space for the project wrapping around Semple Street on the lower portion of the facade, and then the multifamily will be up above. And a multifamily building is considered, or a mixed-use building like this is considered commercial use. Someone also asked about parking. Speaking of parking, one of the features that I neglected to mention in the plan that our parking deck offers, by having the entrance points on the 2 streets, it enables Uber and Lyft drop-off and pickup to take place in the parking without blocking the streets. So that'll also assist in traffic on the street. Go ahead to the next slide. This final elevation view shows the east elevation, the look of the development from the residential, and you can see again how we've used color and a little bit of the massing to break up the design. You'll see it a little bit better in our perspective views. You can go on. This starts to show our series of perspective views. This is the look of the project on the kind of the premier Forbes and McKee Place corner. You can see the commercial in the base of this view. This is actually the leasing office and lobby of the building on this side, with residential and multifamily units up above. And you can also start to see a little bit more closely the streetscape along McKee. That's going to be more masonry, and as we go around that corner, you'll see more residential stoops and some treatments that we've done to bring that more to a human scale as the building touches the street. Let's go on to the next one. Here you can see a little bit better along Forbes. You can see that commercial streetscape, and you can get a sense of the scale of that sidewalk and the storefront glass we've proposed on the sidewalk, along with some building signage treatments that we're proposing to break down that scale. You can go on to the next one. I'll go a little more quickly. We're now looking down McKee. This is a much better view. This is a blow up. Oops. You can go to the next one. That's a blow up on Forbes. I appreciate that. You're keeping me going. That shows how Forbes Avenue is going to look from the pedestrian standpoint. So you can see the leasing lobby, and then in the distance along Forbes is the commercial space. And then as you're looking over towards the right-hand side of the screen, you can start to see a glimpse of how how the street lining units are going to be with masonry, stoops, and landscape treatment along the sidewalk. You can go on to the next one. This is a close-up of that McKee streetscape. So you can see the residential entrances and the landscape and sidewalk treatment we're proposing along that. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the leasing, and you can see more closely how we've tried to use material treatments to break down the scale. And I think someone asked about the 7-foot sidewalk. I believe that's 7 foot clear. The trees and landscaping are not part of that 7-foot dimension. This shows a little bit more of that streetscape treatment. And then this is the parking entrance that we placed along McKee, again, taking advantage of the two-way street and allowing Uber drop-off to happen in the parking and not blocking the residential street. We thought that was to be an important feature for the neighborhood. Here you can see how the building looks along Forbes from the distance. You can see how the building brings down the scale from the commercial buildings across Forbes or the office buildings across Forbes that are even taller, scaling down and then coming down to the residential scale on Forbes. And you can also get a glimpse of our pedestrian walkway. We'll show some blow-ups of what that's going to look and feel like in a few minutes. And so you can see how the building comes down in scale. And you can see a little bit more closely some of the architecture treatments we've proposed to address that. Here you can get a glimpse of the parking facade that I shared before. You can see how we've screened the parking from this side. This side of the building faces a parking deck across Semple, but beyond the screen, car headlights will be concealed, and so pedestrians won't be able to see cars in the deck with that screening treatment. A little bit of a close-up. This is that commercial space we've proposed at the corner of Forbes and Semple. And so you can see with the awning and signage how that will look and feel. A worm's eye view of that. If you're standing unsafely in the street, go ahead. This shows a little bit more closely that parking screening treatment and the sidewalks and landscape treatment we're proposing along that facade of the building. And then someone asked a question about zoning. Zoning allows a parking reduction of 30% for bike parking. So there is significant bike parking, and we want to encourage the residents not to use cars, to use alternate means of transit, like we said, rideshare and biking. And then you can go on.
Sorry, it's locked up on me again.
Okay, this shows again one of the pedestrian or the resident entries to the building, as well as a parking entrance. Someone asked about, this actually shows the service area beyond. We're screening a lot of the building's loading and services within the building, but transformers and we're planning those to be currently in vaults, working with Duquesne on that aspect now to try and conceal those. All right, you can go on to the next slide. We'll show the pedestrian. This is a big file, so thank you for.
Yeah, I think it's just taking a long time to. I had it loaded, but. Sorry about that.
And I'll talk about the bike amenities that we're proposing when we show the. We're going to see a view of that from the pedestrian connection. So, but I'll clarify what I said about transformer vaults. Those are underground. The transformers would be located underground under the service drive. Sorry for saying vaults. That's not clear. But yeah, that means it's underground, and there'll be a grate on top for the energy company to access those, but they'll be below the street. All right. So here we are, you can start to see how the pedestrian connection comes out on Semple Street. And again, that's kind of those are the building services concealed behind that lower wall. But there's still a resident entrance back there. I'm going to go on to the next one and on to the next one. We really tried to walk you around. There's the zoom in of the pedestrian connection. Here is a view of that pedestrian connection we're proposing between our development and the residential. So you can see we're proposing sidewalk, landscaping, benches, and and you can actually see a little sign there that shows the bike room. So this is meant to be not just a parking garage for bikes, but it's a bike amenity for the residents so that they can safely store their bikes and again encourage them to use them. But it'll be a little bit of a bike workshop, place to store them, maybe a little bit of a gathering before going out biking with their friends. And it'll also serve as an entry point to the building. You can go on, we'll show how that walkway goes around the back of the building in the next couple views. Someone asked about the loading dock. Unfortunately, on one of the earlier slides, we did show the loading dock door. It's a large door that'll conceal the loading when it's not in use. Do you mind going to the next one?
I apologize.
No problem.
I'm trying. I apologize, everyone. I'm hitting the advance button and it's just not going.
There's a couple questions about loading while we're waiting, and one thing to note is these apartments will be furnished, so the residents won't have big moving trucks or anything like that. So we expect, trash trucks, UPS trucks, box trucks primarily would be all that would be needed. There shouldn't be huge semis serving the building. This starts to show a little bit of an overhead of that pedestrian walkway, and that shows how it'll feel like in that walkway between our building and the residential building is rendered in white. There you go. So that shows what it'll feel like as a pedestrian walking through that space, again with the landscaping. And our building has windows at the ground floor. It's going to be important for everybody for that area to feel well lit and safe when people walking through it day and night. So we're working very hard to make that feel that way. And I think you can see that in these renderings.
Hey, I don't want to interrupt you, but we have a question on Facebook that's related to this. Somebody wants to know how far back does the building on McKee go, and as it's related to Family House, which is the building that you're showing right here in white. Okay, so the building is about 20 feet away from the very edge of Family House. So that's about a 20-foot wide area there. And so does that answer the question? Now you can see we're even proposing, this is that another quick view of that service area some folks asked about. So you can see a large roll-up door on the right-hand side of the screen. And we're even proposing a little bit of an art treatment or something, an interest point where the pedestrian walkway turns the corner back there. Someone asked about Semple Street, and the building extends back about 300 feet on Semple Street, again with a 20-foot setback. These show some concepts of what that pedestrian walkway, we looked at great urban spaces around the country to develop a design for that. So you can see how we're thinking about using paving patterns, trees, and again, benches
make that feel like a comfortable space for people to gather in. And I also mentioned incorporating some art treatment on the walls to also activate that space. So you can see a couple of examples we pulled to develop our design. All right, and then I know you're kind of gathering the questions, so I know I missed a few as we went through, Wanda. So I think that concludes our presentation. We'll be able to open it up for questions.
Okay, great. And we can go back, to slides that might be necessary. If you wanted to talk more about materials, I know that you did talk about them, but there's a question about materials. And there's some questions I think people are just trying to understand where this sits in plan compared to what they know is there today. So we could probably go back. There's some questions that are related to that, sort of asking how far it goes back on Simple Tong's cuisine, that kind of thing. So would we go to the plan view then?
Yeah, the site plan.
Describe that again.
Yeah, Wanda, this is Kevin. While you're doing that, maybe I can help clarify some of this. If you look at the plan, as I said at the beginning, this is actually, so there's no confusion, this is a consolidation of 5 parcels. We refer to it as the Marathon Oil Site because that's the most prominent of those 5, but there actually are several smaller parcels, including the parking lot and the restaurant that were all under one ownership that make up this parcel. So if you look at the plan view there, the building on the Semple Street side will extend. Somebody asked this question. It will extend beyond Fresno Way a little bit. But the idea of the pedestrian connection is that you will still be able to get from Semple over to McKee via that connection, even though the building itself is going to be beyond where people are walking now, let's put it that way, walking cross blockwise. So hopefully that answers a couple of questions. I know there was somebody asking about, what parcels are involved. And again, it's really 5 parcels. They were all under one ownership. It's the gas station plus the 4 other parcels that were behind it.
Okay, and then there's a question about the on McKee Place, the vehicle entrance into your property being, almost across the street from the entrance to the hotel across the street. I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I'll field that. You can see here on this plan, I believe that's the alley at the back of the hotel across the street from us, and then our entry point is offset from that just a little bit. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
And there were some questions about the tree pits and the tree wells, and have you done any investigation into the subsurface conditions? Can you plant trees in this area? There's a lot of vaults, which is why there aren't as many trees on the streets in the business district.
I'll answer. I think our civil engineer, he's not on, but we've got some preliminary surveys, but working in an urban environment, there could be some information that is not on the surveys that we have, but we'll take a closer look to make sure that we can do those. Hopefully it wouldn't be an issue. Should not be an issue with any trees on site that we proposed. But there could be some utilities that we don't know of on Forbes specifically.
Yeah, and again, this is Kevin McKeegan. Just keep in mind that the city does have a street tree planting requirement, so we're trying to accommodate that as well. So there may be some adjustments to the tree planting shown on this. Keep in mind this is a very preliminary plan, and circles on this plan probably don't mean where a tree is going to be 2 years from now, but we're trying to accommodate the street tree requirement as well.
There's another question about your target market. I don't know if everybody can see, but can you speak to the market of residents you're aiming to lease apartments?
I can jump in on that question. So our target market are students, primarily due to the location near Pitt, but we do not restrict the lease of any of our units by anyone having to be a student. So they can be rented by anyone in the community.
And so we have a question about, is the property eligible for the residential permit parking program?
So I checked the map yesterday, and it's not the clearest, but as best I could make out, the residential permit program for this part of Oakland ends at the family house property. So this property is outside of the residential permit program. That being said, and we have discussed this among the development team, CA is willing to commit that they will not, if that map should change, that they're not going to have this address be one where somebody could apply for a residential permit permission.
Okay. Then maybe we could move to, there's several questions about materials. If I can get the slides to go where I want them to go. There's one about just asking again about materials, and then a lot of cement siding and metal panels. And I'm trying to advance the slides to that part of the slideshow, so I apologize. Oh, here they go. So why don't you tell me which one would be best for you?
Yeah, I think we can just let's use the McKee elevation, if you don't mind. That's probably the best.
Okay, so still going forward a little bit.
Go back.
Oh, go back.
Yeah, it's the first elevation slide, I think.
This
there
one?
We go. Yeah, so so you can start to see our preliminary materials we're proposing. The dark at the base of both the commercial and the residential. We're planning to use masonry at those locations, and then as you go up in the building, we're preparing or planning to use fiber or cement panels. And then there's going to be some amount of metal accents. I think primarily around the Forbes Avenue element here, but there'll be some metal panel accents. But we're trying to keep the masonry at the base of the building where pedestrians will touch it and see it. So it'll feel as much like a masonry building as possible while having a mixture of materials.
And why don't you talk a little bit more about what you're doing to meet LEED certification so people can understand that? And we should define LEED again. There was a question very early on to just what this means.
Okay, let me start on this, and then I'll defer to Jay when we get down to the details. LEED is an acronym for Leadership in Environmental and Energy Efficient Design. It's a program that's promulgated by an organization called the United States Green Building Alliance. It's been around for upwards of 15 years or so at this point. LEED is an effort to have particularly commercial buildings be designed in a way that is more environmentally responsive than was previously done. The city zoning code recognized this when it was adopted back in 1999. And what it does is it allows in non-residential areas, as I said, regardless of what the building is being used for. So use doesn't matter, location matters, what zoning district you're in. As long as you're in a non-residential district, you can take advantage of what the code refers to as a LEED bonus, which allows an increase in either density, floor area, so to speak, or height up to 20% over what the district otherwise limits. We're not seeking a density or floor area bonus here because we don't need it. We are seeking, as I said, the additional 17 feet of height. LEED has a number of different levels of certification. There's a basic LEED certification. There's a bronze, silver, gold, platinum. The zoning code doesn't require any particular level of LEED certification. It just requires that the building be LEED certified. I don't think there's, again, we're talking about a preliminary design here. There have been no decisions made as to what level of certification is going to be sought, but it will be LEED certified. The code, when considering LEED certification, recognizes that certification happens after a building is completed and after the USGBA has had a chance to review and inspect everything and take account of all the documents that have to be prepared in order to confirm that the LEED standards have been met. So what the code requires is that during the design phase, the project has to be registered with USGBA. There has to be a LEED certified professional as part of the design team. And then the appropriate documentation has to be submitted and confirmed by USGBA within 3 years of the occupancy permit being issued. If it's not confirmed by USGBA, then the code actually has a monetary penalty in it, which is tied to the construction cost of the building. What happens is that the zoning administrator is presented with the the registration materials, the confirmation that there's a LEED professional on site. He's presented with the proposals that are part of the construction drawings as to how the LEED certification is going to be met. He then signs off on that, and then after occupancy, you have to go back and reconfirm all that to his satisfaction to actually not be subject to the penalty. So keep in mind that the important point to keep in mind is that it is in the zoning code. It's not a variance. It's something available to anybody who wants to pursue it. It is an iterative process. Oftentimes, what happens during construction is that changes will be made and certain LEED ideas will drop off and other LEED ideas will come into play. And it's really reviewed and finalized and signed off on at the end of the day. So Jay, I don't know if you want to go beyond that, but hopefully that gives people a bit of understanding of the LEED bonus provisions. If you really want to look it up, it's in section 915 of the zoning code.
Yeah, I'll just add, as Kevin said, we're not sure which exact points or features are going to be included in the design. I gave an overview earlier of some of the strategies that we typically employ in projects like this, and it ranges from energy-saving light fixtures, water-saving plumbing fixtures. We're exploring utilizing a green roof to address stormwater and a number of other features. I mentioned insulation earlier as well.
Okay, we'll cover a couple of other questions. Can you speak to minority participation in the project?
Let me put it this way. We haven't even gotten to the point where we are looking at bidding for this project. We're certainly going to do everything we can to meet the city's requirements and goals for minority participation, but we've not identified any contractors. We've not started down that road yet.
Can you speak to, are there any other constraints on this site related to setbacks or easements related to the deeds of the property?
We've, not through us, but through other counsel, we've had a title insurance company take a look at a survey which assumed this building would be constructed, and they were satisfied that we weren't infringing on anything. So I think we're good to go there.
There was a question about on this shot that we have on the screen here, a question about whether those units that face McKee are meant to be multi-story units.
Those are currently planned as single level units, a stack of them, but the exterior design kind of gives them a little bit of a townhome feel to it. So from the exterior, they appear like 3-story units, but they're actually a stack of three flats.
And there was a question about whether a light at Semple would be indicated or required.
Not sure I understand the question. You mean at Semple and Forbes, or?
Semple and Forbes.
Okay. We don't have our traffic engineer with us, but I did check with them earlier today. There have been preliminary meetings on this project with DOMI, Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. Based on that, a report is being prepared. The preliminary read from DOMI, and again, we're talking preliminary, the preliminary read from DOMI is that no intersection improvements such as that will be required for this project. And the engineering basis for that is that if you consider what was going on this property beforehand, a parking lot in particular, and a gasoline station, those actually generate more traffic, according to the engineers, than what a multifamily building of this type will. So again, preliminary reports being prepared based upon the discussions and directions given from DOMI, but right now we're not anticipating that any intersection improvement of that type will be necessary.
And then there are several questions about the walkway, the pedestrian connection through the property. There's a question about the lighting, a question about will the open space be publicly owned, or is it still owned by the developer, but the public will have access to it. And I think that's basically covering collapsing most of people's questions about the walking path through the property here. We can review these images again as well if you would like. I can think.
Okay. I'll let Jay address the lighting issue. The thought right now is that that's going to continue to be privately owned space, but publicly accessible.
Yes, and to dovetail into that, as far as lighting, we actually aren't showing any of the street lighting yet, but there will be city standard street lights surrounding the development as required on this as part of the streetscape. And then we'll probably match that treatment in the pedestrian walkway in some way. We haven't really gotten into that design, but it is important for that space to be well lit at night.
Okay.
And I'll just add as well, security is one of our top issues, so we'll have security cameras in this space as well.
Oh yeah. But it'll be probably a combination of building mounted lighting and street light or pedestrian lights, pole lights in that space.
Okay, there's a question about the size of the units, square footages for the different sized units.
I'll touch on that and let someone else infill, but at this point, we're still exploring the residential mix, so we don't have the exact number of which unit type will be in there. There may be a range of sizes that we might be able to share, but it's a little early yet.
And can you speak to whether there's any affordable housing as part of this project? There's a real lack of affordable units in Pittsburgh generally, and a real need for affordable housing in the Oakland area as well.
I can touch on that, and then Kevin, if you want to jump in. But at this time, the development team is not planning on any dedicated affordable housing. But at the same time, we're not seeking any bonuses related to that, or any tax incentives or other rules to make affordable housing feasible on the site.
I'll also note that when we do get more into our unit mixes, our unit mix and rent ranges will be attractive for a variety of renters, and that's something that's important to us as well.
I think now we can, anybody who's looking at the participant list to see if there's somebody who's just on the phone. And there are a couple of people who are on phone only. So if at this time, again, people who are able to use the chat to ask questions, please do. Anybody who's just on phone and would like to verbalize a question, we'll allow you to go ahead and do that now. You can state your name and then what your question is. You'd have to unmute yourself and then you can ask a question. Okay, hearing none, I think we've covered the questions. There was one question of if the development team would like to share pictures of projects that you've done in other places. I know we don't have those. We don't have those in the slides tonight. We could put them on the project page on our website if you'd like to share something, or we could put a link to your website if you have projects.
Sure, we can certainly share that, and we can do it at the next presentation as well. Wanda, we can send you some images if you'd like to put them on the website.
Okay. And then one last question just came in about a shadow study and what the impact on Forbes Avenue in terms of lack of, sort of the canyon effect of lack of sunlight. Have you done a shadow study or anything like that to see?
Yeah, I'll start on that, and then Kevin, if you want to jump in. But we have not put together a formal shadow study as part of the package. And again, we're building within the allowable zoning envelope.
I think
I'm sorry, Wanda. We'll excuse Jay, he's in Atlanta. Yeah, we understand that a shadow is probably going to be asked for by the city. It just hasn't been prepared yet. We're still preliminary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and again, this is just an early days presentation to the community.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate everyone attending and asking so many useful questions. And we will have a feedback form posted on the website. If you would like to provide additional comments, or somebody who wasn't able to attend the meeting tonight could also provide some comments. We'll then post those responses back to the website probably within a week or so. So that everybody can see those. And the minutes from this discussion we'll post to the website, and the video, this Zoom is being recorded as well. I think that covers us for this presentation. Thanks for giving a very thorough presentation, and there'll be more to come on this project.
Sure, and we appreciate everybody's attention. We're happy to keep answering questions offline or in some other format if people want to reach out to us, and we'll certainly be responsive to anything that shows up on the survey or the minutes that we haven't addressed tonight. We appreciate that this is a community process, and the community has an input here as well. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have one more presentation, and we have representatives from Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority here with us to talk about, there's been a lot of activity in the neighborhood, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Andrea Boykowicz to introduce PWSA and monitor and facilitate the discussion with PWSA tonight.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all here. I'm not going to turn my video on because my internet is a little bit shaky. But as I happened to see the participant list here, it seems like we have more people than I was expecting. So Rachel Rampa, the communications manager at PWSA, is on the is I believe on the meeting here as well, and Nanda and Maura. I happened to see Maura show up also in the list, and Julie Quigley, I believe, are the people here from PWSA. Rachel, are you here still?
And I would suggest that those from PWSA who are planning to present can please unmute themselves and turn your video on.
Very good.
Hey everyone, this is Maura.
Hey, Maura.
I see Rachel on the phone, yeah.
Hi, I'm Amanda Metzger.
Good evening, I'm Julie Quigley.
And I
Thank
believe,
you.
I think we might have lost Rachel in the process. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry. I have been having some trouble.
Oh, yes, there you are.
Oh, great.
Hello.
Okay. Rachel Rampa, I'm here on the call as well.
Very, very good. I believe that we have the two pieces of the PWSA's presentation scheduled today. The first part was just to go over what's been done recently and what's about to be done in terms of paving and restoration, both in Central and in West Oakland. And the second part of the presentation is about customer assistance programs that are available through PWSA. And we will be posting all of this information on our website as well. I just thought it would be great to provide everyone the opportunity to actually ask questions of PWSA, who have been extremely present in our streets in Oakland over the past month, and for them to explain where they are in the project schedule. So Maura, is this what you are going to be presenting? Or Amanda, sorry. Amanda, you are.
Yeah, Amanda will be presenting this for us.
Thank you.
Right, I manage large-scale construction for PWSA. My largest project is restoration. We do about 5,000 sites a year. That's how we did just over that last year with the lead program and other operations work. So this is just our schedule, all weather dependent. We do have a couple added streets we were able to get on this week because people's gas work and other things got finished. If you could go back. Sorry. So we do have a few streets left in Central Oakland to pave. McKee Place, Simple, a couple streets right around there that we still need to finish paving on this week. But the schedule for next week is mostly West Oakland. As we finish up, I did want to let the group know that we do have about 3 sinkholes on Atwood Street that are being repaired, 2 of which are private. One is right next to our main, so we do have work being done there. And then Atwood Street will be paved. I guess this schedule is just having to do with the lead line replacements. It does not have to do with any other PWSA work or water relay programs or any type of scheduled capital work other than lead. So this was simply the lead line program, which was in the area at the beginning of 2019, or the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And then they just handed over to us in early June, late June, handed over to restoration to get in there and do the concrete and paving work. I think I only have one slide, so I don't know if you want to ask questions about restoration and then turn over to Julie to kind of separate it.
I think that we do have some questions about restoration and about the lead line replacement program generally. A number of streets that have been tackled already in Central Oakland as well as in West Oakland are not, you haven't done everybody. We've had a lot of neighbors saying, hey, they dug up half my street, but not the other. And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what PWSA's future plans for lead line replacement are, and whether we can anticipate that there's going to be similar kinds of disruption going forward in terms of excavation on private property.
Unfortunately, I do not manage the lead line replacement program. If you wanted to put together some questions from your constituents and residents, Rachel can get those to Dan Duffy, who manages the lead program. However, I do know that the work orders do range anywhere from 400 to 600 homes, depending on the neighborhoods and districts and just geographical area. So I know that the areas do fluctuate between the neighborhoods. So if they aren't going to be back, a large amount are going to be taken care of with our water relay program. But other than that, I don't know the plans for lead line replacement. That's its own program at PWSA.
And I can speak to it a little bit. Everything she said up until now is accurate. I did get a chance to speak to some of our project managers who handle the design of future work. As Amanda mentioned, we're wrapping up the more targeted lead line replacement program. This was one of actually the last sites here in Oakland, but going forward, we're going to be focusing on not only lead line replacements, but water main replacements. And when I did speak to the project team today, they let me know that there is planning in 2021, going into 2022 for construction of some new water mains in West Oakland and Central Oakland. So you will see us back again, replacing more infrastructure sometime next year. And they did send me a preliminary list of some of these sites they're looking at. I can list these off. Again, these are still in design phase, so this isn't a final plan yet, but they're located on Pierce Street, Oakland Avenue, Parkview Avenue, McKee Place, Coltart, Chesterfield Road, and Aliquippa. So these are some areas, and I see Mohawk Street as well. So these are some areas they're looking into. They might be older water mains that have broken several times, or they might be a water main that is a smaller size. Our standard size is about 6 to 8 inch in diameter, and some older mains are only 4 inches. So a new water main will provide better volume of water on the street for the residents. So that's what the design team is looking into right now. And as that design continues, we can have more updates for the group, and we can come back and speak at another meeting.
Great, thank you. I know that we had a couple of residents from who are on Chesterfield who are a little bit concerned with what they're observing in the surface deformation on the ground there. So relieved to hear that that is on the radar. But as I understand what you just said correctly, Maura, that's not going to be tackled this year, but probably next. Yes.
Correct. Yeah, we're designing new water mains for 2021 right now.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I wanted to call everybody's attention to the CAFE has posted the paving and concrete schedule for Oakland this week. There's a link in the chat there. And with that, we can segue over to Julie, who's going to be presenting about the customer assistance programs.
Thank you. So this evening, we're going to talk also about our customer assistance programs and specifically our response during the COVID-19 pandemic. Way back in mid-March, when all of this hit, we extended our winter moratorium, and we have extended that month after month. So we are not actively terminating customers. We are under a PUC emergency order to not terminate customers through September 2nd. So either PUC action or board action will determine what we're able to do in the future. But for that period of time, since the COVID pandemic reaction occurred, we have not actively terminated customers, and we actually restored customers service for about 49 individuals who were shut off just prior to the pandemic. Next slide, please. So our bill discount program is the first part of our assistance program, and that provides a 75% discount of your fixed base monthly charges. So that's your water and your wastewater conveyance charges. The discount is $26 a month, which yields over $300 every year. You can qualify for this year after year as long as you are meeting the federal poverty level guideline, and there's the chart on the right. We, under COVID, in our response to that, waived the recertification requirement through to the end of the year. So typically, once you got 12 months of this reduced monthly charge, you would have to reapply through our administrator, Dollar Energy Fund. However, we have removed that requirement. So if you were already in the program, you can stay in the program without recertification through to the end of 2020. A second piece of our our customer assistance programs is our hardship grant program. That provides grants of up to $300 for customers facing termination. So if in fact the PUC lifts the emergency order and allows us to use that as a means of collection, customers facing termination who meet that 150% of federal poverty level will have the option to apply for a grant. And that's applied to their arrearage, something that they don't have to pay back, and that will help them, move forward with any debt that they accumulated during the COVID pandemic. In addition to the existing grant program, we have also waived the sincere effort of payment. So the program calls for the customer to make at least a $150 payment within the prior 3 months, and we waived that requirement through to the end of the year as well. A third piece of our assistance program is our private lead service line replacement program project. We are offering free private side lead line replacements for customers who are at or below 300% of the federal poverty level. So that's increased up from 250. So 300% of FPL or lower. And this program is set to expire in 6 months in February, or whenever funding runs out. So if you, your friends or neighbors, relatives are eligible, please contact Dollar Energy, our administrator, and we'll get to that phone number in the next slide. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So this is one of our customers, actually our customer service coordinator of our contact center. We are very proud that we were able to move all of our staff to work from home within about a week and a half. So we did not miss a beat with answering customers' questions and problems. We are live every day, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we are available to work with all customers. So even if you don't qualify for one of the low-income programs, you can get an income-based payment plan that's also interest-free. And that means that you can spread your payments out for as long as 5 years based on your income and not have any interest charges, no late charges during that time of repayment. So give us a call and we'll answer you in spite of the children going back to school and all the other family and pet distractions. We're doing a really good job of taking care of you. And then Dollar Energy is our administrator. So if you want to call them directly as well, they're 1-866-762-2348. And they administer not only our low-income assistance programs for your bills, but also our private lead line replacement program. Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
We're getting a couple questions through in the chat here, Julie, and I was just kind of wondering if you would be in a position to explain a little bit about why it is that everybody's utility bills are increasing, what is going into the increased rate, and whether or not the state has approved additional increases.
So we are currently in the midst of a rate case, and customers had an opportunity to speak their mind during our public input hearings that were last month in July. And we are going for a rate increase because we're in a rebuilding year. So we are the generation that gets to rebuild this more than 100-year-old infrastructure. And you know, I experience it through my staff and dealing with customers every day who are experiencing outages. Water lines are leaking. We're doing main repair and replacements and lead service line replacements. So those funds, unfortunately, have to come from our ratepayers. We're not an investor-owned utility. We are a municipal authority. And so every bit of the money that we collect from ratepayers goes into actually paying for all the infrastructure repair and improvement. And so as a number of things that we've done with respect to getting the lead out of our system, we've had 2 positive tests and our water is extremely safe to drink. And all the other incentives that we've had, introducing orthophosphate into the system to stop any of the lead from leaching out of pipes that we haven't replaced yet. And there are a number of initiatives that we've done that we still need to replace larger things, such as our clear well, our rising main, and large mains throughout the city of Pittsburgh. So we are all tasked with bearing the brunt of making certain that our water is safe to drink for generations to come.
Thank you, Julie.
Sure.
Is there a structure that PWSA has explored for spreading the cost of this repair generation, as you explained it, forward into the future? So we have somebody here suggesting that we might float a bond in order to be able to do that. Is that an option that's available to PWSA?
Yes, we always are repaying existing bonds and then looking for that type of funding when it's available to us through Penvest and a number of other entities, and municipal bonds is something that we've been involved with for decades. So those are all things that are ongoing, but those monies are not free and they do have to be repaid. So that is why we were looking to make certain that we can remain stable and continue the progress that we've already, established and shown through the most recent two to 3 years of a lot of investment in the infrastructure.
Thank you so much. So we're going to be posting the information that you've provided here about the customer assistance programs to our website, and we're also going to be making that available to Oakland residents directly. I am not able to access Facebook to determine if there are questions that are waiting on that side. Not sure, Wanda, if you're able to see that.
I don't see any new comments on Facebook.
If anyone who is dialed in by phone would like to unmute themselves to ask a question. Okay, well, hearing none, thank you very, very, very much. I'm going to hand the reins back to Wanda to wrap up, but I believe that concludes, and thank you so much to PWSA for answering on short notice. This was very helpful.
So I do see one final thing about that PWSA has noted that they will restore the brick on Chesterfield when they do the work on Chesterfield. So thank you for closing the loop on that one, making sure we got that question in there and the answer for it. So I do appreciate that. And thanks to everyone for attending tonight and for all of your active participation. And thanks to all, again, to the members from PWSA who provided such useful information for us. Our next meeting will be, we don't have the date on the screen here, but I think it's the 29th. Tuesday, September 29th, and it'll be on Zoom and Facebook Live. We'll be sending out the agenda as we have it. And there's always lots of information that we share out on our social media, so please follow us and keep checking back on the website for more information. So we're going to conclude the meeting. Thanks everybody for attending.